think you found your person because it feels electric. But that electricity is very often your nervous system mislabeling danger as destiny. And if you do not learn the difference, you will keep choosing intensity over fit and calling it love. Quick thing before I pull this apart. We are building toward 1,000 subscribers, and your subscription genuinely helps us reach more people who want the real mechanisms, not the slogans. And if this hits a nerve, tap like too. It tells the algorithm this is worth surfacing. Now let us make this uncomfortably clear. Chemistry is a spike. Compatibility is a system. Chemistry is your brain shouting, pay attention. Compatibility is your life whispering, this will work. Most people reverse those. They treat the spike as proof of the system, and then they act confused when the system collapses. You have felt this if you have ever met someone and within an hour you were oversharing, joking like you have known them for years, finishing each other's sentences, texting until 3 a.m. and thinking, this is rare, this is special, this is fate. And then 3 weeks later, you are anxious, obsessing, reading subtext into punctuation, and trying to recreate that first night like it was a drug you cannot access anymore. Here is what is actually happening. Chemistry is not a measure of how well two people function together. Chemistry is a measure of how strongly your prediction brain is engaged. Your brain is a prediction machine. Its primary job is not happiness. It is reducing uncertainty fast enough to keep you alive. When you meet someone, your brain starts running models. Who are they? Are they safe? Are they valuable? Do they like me? What is my status in their eyes? Chemistry is what it feels like when that model building gets turbocharged, and the turbocharger is not always, this is good. Sometimes it is, this is unclear. Let me show you what I mean. There are two types of attraction signals that feel identical in your chest but come from totally different circuits. One is appetitive reward, the clean dopamine signal. I want this, it looks good, I move toward it. The other is arousal from uncertainty, the norepinephrine and cortisol edge. I cannot predict this, I need to track it, I cannot look away. Both elevate heart rate, both narrow attention, both create that tunnel vision sense of meaning. You do not feel the molecule difference. You just feel magnetized. Now here is where it gets interesting. Your brain has a labeling problem. There is a classic line of research on misattribution of arousal. People can mistake physiological arousal from one source for attraction if the timing is right. But most people think that only applies to obvious things like a scary bridge or a horror movie. The deeper version is that your entire attachment history can function like the scary bridge. If you grew up around inconsistency, emotional unpredictability, or love that had to be earned, your nervous system learned that high arousal plus focus on a person equals bonding. Not because it is healthy, but because it is familiar. Familiar is not safe. Familiar is predictable. And the brain confuses predictable with true. So the first novel insight I want you to hold is this. Chemistry often measures the match between their patterns and your wounds. It is not the match between your values and your life. You can test this without therapy jargon. Ask yourself, when the chemistry hits, do you feel more like yourself, or do you feel like you have to perform? Do you feel more calm and expansive, or more urgent and strategic? Do you feel chosen, or do you feel like you are auditioning? Because compatibility does not make you audition. Compatibility makes you coordinate. And coordination is boring to a dopamine system trained on spikes. Think about modern dating for a second. Swipes, short texts, delayed replies, partial information, curated photos. The environment is engineered for intermittent reinforcement. That is not romance. That is a variable ratio reward schedule, the same learning structure that makes slot machines addictive. You get small, unpredictable rewards, Yeah, so your brain escalates effort. When someone gives you inconsistent attention and then suddenly floods you with it, your brain does not experience that as this person is unstable. Your brain experiences it as this is valuable because it is scarce. That is the second novel insight. What you call chemistry is often your brain responding to an attention economy, not to a person. Notice the pattern here. The hottest early connections often involve asymmetry. Someone is slightly ahead, someone is slightly behind. The chase creates arousal. The arousal gets labeled as connection. Then you try to fix the anxiety by getting more contact from the person creating the anxiety. That is a self-licking ice cream cone. Compatibility works the opposite way. It reduces the need for interpretation. It lowers the cost of being honest. It makes repair predictable. It does not rely on dopamine spikes, it relies on trust being boringly consistent. But you might be thinking, okay, so chemistry is just anxiety. No, that is too simple, and it would make you miss the more dangerous thing. The most seductive chemistry is not fear. It is identity resonance. Identity resonance is when someone fits a story you have about yourself, so your brain treats them like evidence that your story is real. You meet someone and they seem to get you. They mirror your humor, validate your worldview, share your niche taste, finish your thoughts. It feels like soul recognition, but often it is just high-speed social calibration. Humans are absurdly good at micro-mirroring. We match tone, pace, posture, even word choice. And if someone is socially skilled or emotionally hungry or manipulative, they can mirror you so cleanly that you confuse reflection for alignment. Here is the mechanism behind this. When you feel understood, your brain releases safety signals. Oxytocin increases. Social pain dampens. Your guard drops. That is adaptive in tribes. But in one-on-one dating, it creates a loophole. I feel understood can happen long before this person understands me. Do you hear the difference? Feeling understood is an internal state. Being understood is an achievement between two minds over time. So the third novel insight is this. Early chemistry is frequently a false positive for understanding because your brain rewards recognition faster than it verifies reliability. Let me give you a concrete example. Someone asks deep questions on the first date. They hold eye contact. They share something vulnerable. You share something back. You both feel close, but closeness created through accelerated disclosure is not the same as closeness created through observed behavior. One is a narrative bond. The other is a logistical bond. Narrative bond is, we have a story. Logistical bond is, we can build a life. Most couples with extreme early chemistry are rich in narrative bond and poor in logistical bond. They can talk for hours, but they cannot plan a weekend without conflict. They feel spiritually aligned, but they have opposite conflict styles. They feel like twin flames, but they cannot do boring tasks together without someone getting resentful. Now watch what happens next, because this is the trap that keeps intelligent people stuck. When the relationship starts failing at the logistical level, you do not interpret that as incompatibility. You interpret it as a temporary disturbance in the story. So you fight for the story. You double down. You romanticize the struggle. You tell yourself that love is hard, but love is not supposed to be hard in the beginning. Coordination is supposed to be hard. Building a shared system takes effort, but the effort should feel like two people versus a problem, not two people versus each other. And this leads to a question that changes everything. Why does the brain treat struggle as meaningful? Because effort is a cue. There is a bias called effort justification. When you invest a lot, you inflate the value of what you are investing in to avoid cognitive dissonance. If you have cried, overthought, negotiated your boundaries down, rewritten your needs into something reasonable, weighted by your phone, and tolerated confusion. Your brain needs a payoff narrative, otherwise you have to admit you harmed yourself for nothing. So the brain goes, this must be special. This is why people confuse high chemistry relationships with the one, not because of romance, because of sunk costs, plus intermittent reinforcement, plus identity resonance. Stay with me, because this next part recontextualizes everything. Chemistry is not the enemy. The problem is using chemistry as a selection tool. Chemistry is like the check engine light. It tells you something is happening under the hood. It does not tell you whether the car is a good purchase. Sometimes chemistry is a healthy signal, mutual desire, aligned values, shared humor, secure attachment, genuine curiosity. But sometimes it is an alarm, unpredictability, status games, attachment activation, unresolved trauma patterns, or pure novelty. So the question is not, do I feel chemistry? The real question is, what is the chemistry made of? And you can actually break it down. I use a simple internal diagnostic, and it is brutally clarifying. Separate your attraction into 4 ingredients: novelty, validation, volatility, and vision. Novelty is the excitement of the new. Validation is the feeling of being chosen. Volatility is the unpredictability that keeps you monitoring. Vision is the sense of a shared future that you can actually describe. Most people mistake a mix of novelty, validation, and volatility for vision. They feel a rush and assume it implies a future. But vision is not a feeling. Vision is a set of compatible plans. How you do conflict, money, time, family, ambition, health, sex, social life, and boredom. And boredom is the big one nobody wants to talk about, because compatibility is largely the ability to metabolize boredom together without creating drama to feel alive. Now here is the part that will sting, but it is useful. Many people are not addicted to a person. They are addicted to the version of themselves they become around that person. More witty, more daring, more alive, more desired. That is not connection, that is state change. In neuroscience terms, the person is a cue. Your brain pairs them with a high arousal state. So when you think you miss them, you often miss the state. That is why you can feel withdrawal even when you logically know the relationship is bad. Your body is not grieving love. Your body is recalibrating its reward baseline. Compatibility does not always give you that high. Sometimes it gives you a low, steady warmth. And if your baseline is chaos, warmth feels like emptiness. That is not a sign you are not attracted. It is a sign your nervous system has been trained to equate calm with lack of love. So what do you do with this without turning dating into a spreadsheet? You start running a different experiment. You stop asking, do we click? And you start asking, do we repair? Because compatibility reveals itself in the micro moments after friction. Not in the first kiss. Not in the first deep talk. In the first misunderstanding. The first boundary. The first time one of you is tired, stressed, or disappointed. Chemistry predicts intensity. Repair predicts longevity. Let me show you what I mean in real-life terms. If you say, hey, when you disappear for a day, it throws me off, and they respond with curiosity, accountability, and a concrete adjustment, and that is compatibility. If they respond with defensiveness, minimization, or a counterattack about your neediness, the chemistry you feel is about to become a treadmill. And there is another layer. Your body knows before your mind admits it. Pay attention to your post-contact state. After you hang up or leave the date, do you feel settled or do you feel spun? Settled means your nervous system is integrating. Spun means your nervous system is scanning. Spun can feel like excitement, but it is also the state that precedes obsession. Here is the unified model, and this is the payoff. Chemistry is fast information. Compatibility is slow information. Fast information comes from cues: voice, smell, symmetry, confidence, mirroring, shared interests, scarcity, status. Slow information comes from patterns: consistency, conflict repair, empathy under stress, alignment of daily life, honesty when inconvenient, ability to negotiate without punishing. Fast information is high confidence and low accuracy. Slow information is low confidence and high accuracy. That is why you keep getting tricked. Your brain prefers confidence, so you need a rule that protects you from your own confidence. Mine is simple. Never make a commitment at the peak of chemistry. Let chemistry open the door. Let compatibility decide whether you move in. Give it time to collect slow data. Watch how they treat service workers. Watch how they speak about exes when they are not trying to impress you. Watch how they handle a no. Watch whether they can hold two truths: I want you and I will respect you. That combination is rarer than people think. And if you want a final test that cuts through everything, I'd ask this. If the sex disappeared for 60 days, would the relationship get better, worse, or simply different? Better means you have real friendship and coordination. Worse means the relationship is being propped up by arousal. Different means you have something, but you have not built the system yet. You do not need to kill chemistry. You need to stop worshipping it, because chemistry is not the same as compatibility. Chemistry is ignition. Compatibility is engine design. And if you keep marrying ignition, you will spend your life wondering why the car keeps breaking down. If this changed how you see your own patterns, I would genuinely like to hear what you noticed in the comments. And the next time you feel that electric pull, do not ask, is this special? Ask, is this stable? Your future self will recognize the difference immediately.